Hey guys, tonight we sail back, way back, to the misty black coastline of 17th century Iceland, where your sheep are sleeping, the waves are whispering, and your children are dreaming under sod-roofed houses. You're wrapped in wool, maybe snoring a little louder than you'd like to admit, when something foreign slips into the wind. It's not thunder, it's not a wolf, it's oars. Your eyes snap open. The air smells like salt and peat and something else. Burning oil? You squint out your turf window. There's movement. Not sheep. Not John from next door sleepwalking again. These shadows have torches. And blades. Hey, this probably goes without saying, but you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'll keep whispering these weird, unsettling stories till the cows come home, assuming pirates don't kidnap the cows. 2. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is, Icelandic midnight or breakfast in Brisbane. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You sit up slowly, heart knocking. They're shouting outside, real shouting now. Not the boisterous kind from a winter alehouse. The kind that sounds like blades clashing with flesh. Your feet hit the cold earth floor. You fumble for your boots. Your wife grabs your arm. Her breath is fast, her voice even faster. They're outside. You peek past the door. The wooden church, just beyond the knoll, is already lit like a bonfire. You see men, no silhouettes. Not Icelanders. Their hats are tall. Their beards are wrong. Their skin looks darker in the flame. Barbary pirates, though you don't know the term yet. From North Africa. Algiers, most likely. Or sail. Maybe Tunis. They're not here to fish. You scoop up your son. He's barely 8. You shout for your daughter, who runs to you with bare feet. Your youngest clutches a woolen doll. The raiders don't knock. They kick through your door with shocking speed, shouting in a language like music played backwards. One man grabs your wife. Another seizes your daughter by the hair. You swing a poker blindly. It connects with a clang and a scream. Someone slashes at your shoulder. You fall. Hard. And that's when you see it. Your children, yanked away like sacks of oats, vanishing into the smoke. Historians still argue whether these raids were organized state missions or rogue pirate crews acting for profit. But that debate means very little to you now, bleeding on your own doorstep. You scramble up, dazed, trying to follow. Fire lights the mist. Your neighbors' homes are in flames. Sheep scatter in terror. A priest cries out. Then silence. Except for the sea. Always the sea. You stagger toward it. Down at the rocky cove, you see their ships, long, low, sleek. The sails bear no crosses. Just crescent moons and strange green glyphs. One vessel is already pushing off, dark forms crowding its deck. Among them, you spot a tiny arm waving, your youngest. She sees you, or thinks she does. You wade into the freezing surf. You shout her name. Someone clubs you from behind. You fall into the shallows. Water fills your mouth, your nose. You fight to rise. You see the boat slip into deeper dark, its lanterns shrinking, your family aboard. The shore is slick with seaweed and blood. A sheep bleats nearby, limping. One of the raiders laughs as he sets fire to a pile of books taken from the church. The Icelandic Reformation had only been complete for about 80 years. Lutheranism was still fragile here, so were its followers. You mutter a prayer, even as the flames reflect in your watering eyes. Someone grabs your hair and drags you backward. Then blackness. When you come to, you're inside a cart. Not a Viking cart like you'd expect. Something sturdier. Moroccan maybe. Built for hauling fish. Or captives. Your arms are bound. Your shirt is wet. Blood or seawater or both. The smell is unforgettable. Smoke, vomit, and roasted barley. You're not the only one. The village pastor sits beside you, dazed, his vestments torn. A woman sobs across from you, clutching something under her shawl. It's a hand, small, unmoving. You count the people in the cart. 15. You don't know how many others are dead.
or gone.
But this was a quiet fishing town, barely 30 families. They didn't miss a house. There's a moment of calm as the cart halts at the beach again. You raise your head, and you see them. Rows of villagers, hands bound, faces ash-smeared, clothes torn, lined up like cattle before the ships. One man protests in Latin. He's stabbed in the leg and dragged away. The pirates laugh like it's a festival. The local governor isn't among the captives. He fled.
Typical.
The scholar beside you mutters something about the Ottomans, how the pirates were probably sanctioned under the Sultan's shadow, how they hold treaties, fly flags of convenience. You nod blankly. It doesn't help. Suddenly, the cart jolts forward. You're going to board that ship. You're going to leave Iceland. You are going to a place you cannot imagine. And the last thing you see, before the gangplank swallows you whole, is your daughter's doll, floating in a puddle, face down, just outside the firelight. The wood of the gangplank creaks beneath your feet, slick with seawater and who knows what else. You shuffle forward, hands bound, ankles burning. Behind you, someone groans. Maybe it's the old woman from the next farm over. You're not sure. Your brain feels like wet wool. Ahead, the pirate ship looms like a floating nightmare. It smells like mildew, smoke, fish guts, and something acrid you can't name. There's no turning back now. Your captors prod you with the butts of their weapons, curved sabers, engraved oddly, beautiful and cruel. They're laughing again, one of them humming a tune with no melody. You step aboard, and everything shifts beneath you. Land is gone. Balance is a suggestion. Your children are nowhere in sight. Above you, rigging twists like spider silk. Foreign words are shouted from the deck as men scurry to prepare for departure. You watch one lean over and casually shove a man too slow to climb below. He hits the deck hard and doesn't get up. You're herded down wooden stairs into the belly of the ship. The air down here is hotter, tighter. A wave of stench hits, so hard you gag. It's sweat and fear and filth, and the memory of hundreds of others who screamed down here before you. You're shoved into a corner with a dozen other captives. There's no room to sit properly. Your knees knock against a bucket that smells like it failed its one job. Rats scurry. Someone vomits. A child cries out a high, familiar pitch. You jolt upright and try to crawl toward the sound, but you're yanked back and told to shut up in a language you don't understand. A boot presses your chest. Then it's gone. The ship creaks and groans. And then it moves. Goodbye, Iceland. There's no candlelight down here. Just the muffled thump of boots above and the slap of water against the hull. It's night again. Or is it still night? You don't know anymore. A voice beside you says, "They took my son, too." It's the pastor. His white collar is gone, replaced by bruises. He whispers Latin verses under his breath, as if the words might part the sea or summon an angel with a sword. You want to believe he's right, but your back aches, your stomach growls, and your throat tastes like salt and ash. Historians still argue whether the pirates were primarily motivated by profit or jihad, he says suddenly, his voice dry. Maybe both. Makes little difference to us now. You give him a weak smile. Thanks for the clarity, Father. He chuckles just once. We are Jonah now, he says, swallowed by the whale. Funny how theologians always find the perfect biblical metaphor, even when everyone's dying. The ship rocks violently, sending you into the pastor's shoulder. Somewhere behind you, someone starts singing. It's barely a melody, just a hum. But it spreads like a spark through dry straw. More voices join in. You recognize the tune, a lullaby your grandmother used to sing. Your lips join before you even realize. Sleep comes like a thief. Fitful, dreamless. You're jolted awake, what feels like minutes later. Food arrives.
Well,
Food. A pirate tosses down bowls of thin, grayish soup, fish stock, maybe, with something floating in it. Might be turnip, might be tow. You slurp it anyway. Hunger erases pride pretty quickly. Drink, says a pirate, shoving a clay cup toward you. You sip. It's briny, but wet. Later, a teenage boy is dragged out. He'd been crying too loudly. The door slams behind him. You never hear him again. The pastor starts whispering again. Not Latin this time. Icelandic. Home words. Something about snow and fire and stars that never rise. I was supposed to baptize a baby this week, he says softly. It was going to be named John. You close your eyes. The ship sails for days. Or weeks. You lose count. There's no light down here, save for the occasional flicker of a lantern when pirates check on you. You try to talk to others, piece together names, fates, stories, but the language barrier is harsh.
Still, eyes speak.
A mother's eyes say more than words ever could. The most bizarre moment comes when a pirate suddenly throws open the hatch and calls down. Who can play music? Silence. Then, a trembling voice says, I can. A fiddler from a village 2 over. They drag him up. Hours later, you hear music on the deck. Strange scales, off-key to your ears, and laughter. Maybe he bought himself a few more days. Quirkier still, one of the pirates seems to have brought a monkey aboard. You only see it once, clinging to his shoulder, nibbling on some fruit. Its eyes glow in the dark. It hisses at you like a tiny demon. You laugh, but it comes out wrong. The smell gets worse. People stop speaking. The rats get bolder. One climbs across your ankle. You don't even flinch anymore. Sometimes someone dies. They're taken up and not brought back. Eventually the air changes. It's warmer, denser. Smells like spices and sand and something faintly floral. You hear new voices. Not Icelandic. Not the pirates' tongues, either. Others. Arab merchants? Or more captives. Algiers, the pastor whispers. It must be.
He's right.
The ship creaks into harbor under a burning sky. You're allowed a few minutes above deck, blinking in the orange light like cave bats. And there it is, the North African city of Algiers. You've never seen so many domes or towers or walls in your life. The buildings are the color of bone and sun. The air smells like cinnamon and heat. Minarets stretch into the sky, calling out in songs you don't understand. You can barely stand. Your feet touch foreign soil. And just like that, you are a product. A body for sale. Welcome to the slave markets of Algiers. The first thing that hits you is the noise. Not the shouts of pirates or the moans of the weary, but the buzz of a city that's very much alive. The Algiers port is a swirl of voices, clanging metal, creaking carts, and yelling in a dozen different languages. You've never heard such chaos stitched into one place. Arabic, Turkish, Spanish, Italian, and somewhere in the mess, the guttural scrape of someone speaking your language, far off like a memory. The pirates prod you, and the others forward. Your ankles feel like they're filled with gravel. You glance sideways. Some of the children are barely walking. Your youngest is still missing. Your heart hammers with each step. Maybe, just maybe, you'll spot their face in the crowd.
But no.
Just strangers.
Sand. Heat.
And camels. You've seen drawings, maybe, but nothing prepares you for how weirdly tall they are. One of them bellows like a broken trumpet and nearly spits on your foot. A pirate chuckles. First time, Icelander? His accent is thick, but his sarcasm is fluent. You're herded through a walled gate and into the old part of the city. It's like stepping into another world. Narrow alleys twist between tall, whitewashed buildings. Laundry flutters above. Children peek from windows, whispering. Somewhere, a rooster crows. You don't know why, but it feels deeply inappropriate. Then the smell hits. Human, citrus, sweat, smoke, and something roasting over a fire. Your stomach clenches. You pass a tiled fountain. A boy splashes water at a cat, which jumps and lands gracefully on a ledge. For a brief moment, you could almost forget your property now. Then you reach it. The Souk al-Rakik, the slave market. It's a broad, sun-drenched courtyard surrounded by colonnades and stone arches. Merchants lounge in the shade, sipping something from tiny cups. Others sharpen knives or count coins. You feel dozens of eyes slide across you. Calculating, cold, bored. You're told to strip. You don't move. You can't. A whip cracks. Not on you, on the man beside you. He drops instantly, screaming. You start undressing. It feels like cutting off pieces of yourself, one layer at a time. They examine you like a horse. Teeth, arms, feet. A man prods your ribs and grunts. Strong enough. Another jabs a finger toward your scalp and makes a disgusted face. Probably the lice. The pastor is next. He mutters a prayer as they strip him. His hands tremble, but he doesn't resist. You can't help but feel he's preparing for crucifixion. And then your turn is done. You're grouped by gender, age, and apparent usefulness. You're put in the adult, healthy lot.
Yay.
Somewhere else, you hear a woman scream. A child wails in answer. You move to a pen. Yes, like livestock. Just enough room to sit if you all press together. A guard with a pike stands watch, chewing something and spitting at the ground. Hours pass. The sun reaches its highest point, baking the stone courtyard. No one gives you water. One man tries to lick dew off the bars. A bell rings. The buyers arrive. They come in all styles. Elegant robes, rustling silks, dusty armor, polished sandals. Some look like nobles, others like merchants, others like gangsters from a historical soap opera. Most don't look at you. A few do. A man stops in front of your pen. His beard is oiled, his eyes sharp. He points at you. The guard nods. You're pulled up. Now comes the fun part, the bidding. You're led to a raised platform with 3 others. Below, a scribe calls out something: your age, your skills. You have no idea what he's saying. The merchant who pointed at you raises a hand. Another does too. An argument begins. Apparently, you're slightly more valuable than you thought. Must be the farming muscles. Historians still argue whether European slaves were truly seen as inferior or simply exotic commodities, says a voice in your head. Probably the pastors. Or maybe just a tired hallucination. Eventually, the bidding ends. The merchant with the oiled beard wins. You're yanked down and handed over like bread. He gives the pirate some silver and a loaf of bread. Literally, you are worth roughly 1 week of carbs. Congratulations. He leads you down another street, quieter now. The crowd's thin. You pass through a carved door into a large courtyard filled with sunlight and green tiles. A fountain bubbles gently in the center. It would be peaceful if not for the chain around your neck. You are his now. A servant, a much older man with hollow eyes and weathered skin, ushers you toward a corner where mats are rolled. He says something you don't understand, then gestures, sleep here. Work later. You collapse. Sleep is deep and dreamless. When you wake, the world is different. You're bathed, scrubbed, oiled. Dressed in loose clothes that itch. A turban, poorly wrapped, is shoved on your head. You look like a weird lamppost. Then come the chores. Turns out you're being trained. In the kitchen, you peel fruit, clean fish, carry water, grind spices. The other slaves speak a few broken words of various languages. You learn by imitation. Eventually, someone tells you his name is Yusef. He was Greek once. Before the pirates took him. 5 years ago, he says. They called me Ioannis back home. You ask if it gets easier. He shrugs. You stop crying, if that's what you mean. At night, you eat rice and lentils. Not bad, really. You sit on the rooftop and look out at the stars. You wonder if your children are seeing the same sky. The days blur. Weeks pass. Your owner is mostly absent. He seems important, always entertaining guests, discussing trade, politics, sometimes even poetry. You pour wine for them, and they never look at you. Except once. A guest asks if you're from the land of ice. You nod. He grins. Cold place, hot fate. You force a smile. One afternoon, as you're grinding saffron, a commotion erupts at the front gate. A group of foreign diplomats have arrived. They speak a form of French, but you catch enough to understand. They're buying back prisoners. Ransoms. Your heart lurches. You rush to the servant who speaks a little of your tongue. Are they here for the Icelanders? You ask. He shrugs. Maybe. Rich ones first. You think of the pastor. Of your children. Are they here too? You beg to be allowed to watch from the balcony. They agree, probably just amused. And then, across the courtyard, you see them. Your 2 eldest. Thinner, paler, but alive, being led away by one of the diplomats. You shout. They don't hear you.
You shout again.
One looks back. Eyes lock. Recognition.
Shock.
A whispered name. Then the moment is gone. They vanish through the gate. You fall to your knees. You laugh.
You sob.
You breathe. You'll never forget that second. It was everything. You rise before the sun now. Always. There's no bell, no rooster. Just the way the sky starts to shift from velvet black to ash gray, and you know it's time. Someone always kicks the mat next to yours just to be sure. You've stopped asking who. Routine replaces memory in captivity. It's easier that way. First chore of the day. Water. Always water. Fill the jugs. Carry them in. Don't spill. Don't speak. Your feet memorize the courtyard tiles, every chip, every loose stone, every patch of moss where you nearly slipped on day 6. The kitchen steward, a lean man with a scar like a question mark down his cheek, gestures with 2 fingers, grind and cook. You know the routine. Lentils today. Again. You want to scream. Or joke. Or both. Didn't know I'd be cooking the same beans for the rest of my life. You mutter, mostly to yourself. A boy hears and smirks. Better than scrubbing floors. He's maybe 12. Moroccan, probably. Already hardened like a pebble in a shoe. They like the way you cook. Might keep you alive longer. Comforting. Mid-morning, a merchant arrives. A small entourage follows, servants, guards, one boy holding a pet monkey. The monkey shrieks when it sees you. You shriek back. Quietly. Internally. They dine with your master. You pour wine, serve dates stuffed with almonds, and quietly refill trays. One of them pinches your arm and murmurs, "Strong hands." You don't respond. You've learned to become furniture. Still, the monkey watches you the whole time. You don't trust it. Later, you hear them laughing about Europeans who think snow is magic and drink sour milk. Skier, you think. Idiots. Still, you smile. That night, Yusuf finds you cleaning fish by candlelight. They asked about you, he says casually, slicing through a sea bream like it insulted his mother. One of them wanted to buy you. Your breath catches. And your master said no. Too good a cook. You blink. That's it. That's your fate. Chef of captivity. Somewhere, your younger self is rolling their eyes. But it gets stranger. A week later, your master summons you.
Directly.
That never happens. You're ushered into his study, where scrolls and books in 6 languages clutter the shelves. He sits behind a desk, sipping from a small glass of something dark. You can read, he asks. You nod. Latin. You nod again. He tosses a scroll onto the desk. Translate this.
Now.
Your fingers shake as you unroll the parchment. It's an old Roman text. Geography. Not your strong suit, but you stumble through. When you finish, he claps softly. You'll assist my son with his studies. Mornings only. The rest, kitchen. Just like that, you're a teacher now. Historians still argue whether some slaves in North Africa lived better lives than the poor in Europe. You're not sure. What you do know is that teaching a spoiled 12-year-old boy how to pronounce Caesar is somehow harder than grinding 100 pounds of cumin. Still, it changes things. You sleep in a slightly better corner. You eat from cleaner bowls. One night, you even receive meat in your stew. It feels like betrayal, and then a real surprise. The master lets you write a letter. It must be in Latin, and he reads it first. But it's real. A letter. To someone. You don't know who will get it or how, but you write anyway. To anyone of the church in Iceland, I am alive. I saw my children. They were taken but rescued. I do not know where. Please, if you find them, tell them I saw them, that they looked strong, that I am proud. You cry as you write, not loudly, just enough. Your master watches, says nothing, and hands the letter to a scribe. Maybe it reaches someone, he says. Weeks pass. The master's son begins to enjoy your lessons. One day, he brings you a scroll and says, "This one's about a whale that swallows people. Like your stories, yes?" You smile. Something like that. He nods. Are you a heathen? You shrug. Only when I'm cooking. He laughs. You make a mental note. Joke number 7 has finally landed. Later, Yusef tells you, you're being watched, not just by the boy, by the house. You ask what he means. Some say the master's household keeps spies. Slaves who tattle. You're getting too comfortable. Careful. You nod, but it's too late for careful. You started feeling again. And feelings make you foolish. You start asking questions. Have any other Icelanders come through? Has anyone been freed lately? Has anyone escaped? Mostly, the answers are no. But one night, a woman with silver streaks in her braids tells you something strange. They say a man from your land became a guard. Converted. Learned Arabic. Became someone important. You stare. Do you believe it? She shrugs. Why not? People do what they must to survive. You lie awake thinking about that.
Would you?
Could you? Historians often debate how many Northern Europeans converted to Islam during captivity. Some out of faith, some out of desperation, some to escape the lash. The numbers are unclear, but the stories remain. You remember the pastor, his quiet faith, his gentle words. You wonder what he would think of you now, kneeling beside a fire, reciting Arabic prayers with the boy you teach, because it pleases the master. You wonder if you still belong to your God. Then one day, something happens. A message arrives. A diplomat from Livorno, Italy, has come bearing papers. Ransom agreements. Lists of names. Yours is on it. You don't believe it. You're called again to the master's study. He looks tired, older than before. You're to be freed, he says. You wait for the punchline. None comes. It's paid, he adds. By the church. He doesn't say goodbye. Doesn't shake your hand. Just waves you away. You pack nothing. You own nothing. At the gates, Yusef stops you. He hands you something wrapped in cloth.
Bread.
A small coin. A scrap of parchment with a name. If you reach Italy, he says, find this man. He helps freedmen. You nod. He doesn't hug you. You don't expect him to. You pass through the gates. For the first time in over a year, you breathe air without walls. And then you look back. You'll never forget that house. Not for its cruelty, but because it was where you survived. And survival in this story is already a kind of miracle. The road to Livorno is longer than you imagined. Not in distance, but in hours. In thoughts. In the weight of silence. You ride in the back of a wagon, squeezed between sacks of barley and a mother nursing a child who won't stop staring at you. You try to smile. The child frowns. You think it's fair. At night, the caravan stops at makeshift inns or open fields. There's no fire. Too dangerous. Just stars and quiet prayers, whispered in languages you don't understand anymore. One night, you dream you're back in Iceland, except everything is warm. Even the snow. When you reach the city, you expect a celebration.
A crowd.
A trumpet. Maybe even someone yelling, "Hey, you made it." But all you get is a grumpy clerk holding a list and a piece of cheese. He barely looks up. Name? You give it. He scans the list. You'll stay at the mission house. Third door on the left. Don't wander. The mission house isn't a house. It's more like a converted stable, with straw beds, a leaking roof, and one very nervous cat who clearly does not want to be part of this. Still, you sleep. For the first time in weeks, you actually sleep. Not just a nap. Not a half doze with one ear open for footsteps. Real, bone-deep sleep. You dream of firewood that doesn't run out and stew that doesn't taste like defeat. In the morning, a friar calls your name. You'll be debriefed today, he says. Debriefed, you ask. Like, undressed but with words? He doesn't laugh. Friars rarely do. Instead, he leads you into a stone room with a wooden desk and a chair that might once have been part of a boat. A man in clerical robes sits across from you. His name is Brother Matteo. He has kind eyes and the slow, deliberate way of speaking that makes you feel either very calm or very guilty.
Tell me, he says.
Everything. So you do. You talk about the ship, the shore, the flames, the chains. You try not to cry when you describe your children, how you saw them once, how you don't know where they are now. He listens, doesn't interrupt. When you finish, he just says, "You're strong." "No," you reply. "I'm just here." He nods like that's the same thing. You stay at the mission for 3 weeks. They feed you bread, olives, and warm soup that tastes like actual vegetables. You're given clean clothes, scratchy but free of fleas, and a set of sandals that don't quite match in size. Close enough. You meet others like you. A Danish sailor missing an ear, a French woman who speaks only in whispers, a Spanish monk who hasn't blinked since he arrived. You form an odd sort of family, not by blood but by scar. Every night, someone shares a memory. Every morning, someone else forgets one. Historians still debate how effective these redemption houses really were. Some say they saved lives. Others say they barely kept people alive long enough to be sent back into suffering. You can't decide. You just know you're breathing. One day, Brother Matteo gives you a parchment. "It's your repatriation paper," he says. You scan the words. It's real. It says you're going home. The word feels impossible. "By ship?" you ask. He nods. "With others. To Marseille first, then up the coast, then to Denmark. From there, they'll arrange for passage to Iceland." You want to weep. Instead, you eat a fig and pretend not to taste the salt of your own relief. Before you leave, he pulls you aside again. "You said your children were taken but escaped. Do you know who helped them?" You shake your head. "Well," he says, "there's been talk. A boy and a girl, Icelandic, found in Algiers. Bought by a wealthy Andalusian merchant. Treated kindly. Might be them." Your hands start to tremble. "Do you know the merchant's name?" He shakes his head. "Just a rumor. But if it's true, they're alive." That's the moment something strange happens. Your heart, which had been like a dried husk this whole time, suddenly pulses with heat again, like it remembers. Hope. That terrible, bright thing. On the ship to Marseille, you watch dolphins play beside the hull. Someone says it's good luck. Someone else throws up over the side. You say nothing. The sea air is different here. Not cold and brutal, like the North Atlantic, but soft. Like it wants to hug you instead of crush you. At the port, a French official asks where you're from. "Iceland." He laughs. "That's a long way." "Yeah," you reply. "Feels longer now." In Marseille, you wait again. Paperwork. Passes. Permission. Freedom. It turns out requires a lot of stamps. You meet a man who used to be a priest but now sells maps. He shows you one that includes Iceland. You see that tiny speck, he says. "That's you." You laugh. You're not wrong. He offers you work, just for a week, copying Latin inscriptions onto charts. You take it. Something about holding a quill again makes you feel human. And then, the Danish ambassador arrives. "We have room for you," he says. "We'll get you as far as Copenhagen. From there, we'll send word to your bishop." It hits you then. You're really going home. One night, before you board, you sit by the docks and stare at the water. You whisper into the wind. "Children, if you're out there, I'm coming back. I'll find you." The wind doesn't answer, but it doesn't fight you either. And sometimes that's enough. The ship to Copenhagen creaks and groans with every wave, like it's just barely agreeing to float. You're crammed in with traders, former slaves, a goat that smells like damp socks, and a very opinionated woman from Antwerp who insists that garlic is a cure for heartbreak. You pretend to believe her. It's easier than explaining your own kind of heartbreak, the kind that doesn't go away with cloves or herbs or even time. The sky over the Baltic is a dull gray smear. Rain taps the wooden deck like an impatient child. But you're used to water now. After all you've seen, a little rain feels like a nap. Somewhere near Hamburg, a man in a wool cap asks what you're staring at. You say, "My direction." He nods like he understands. Maybe he does. In Copenhagen, you're processed again. Another list, another quill, another person mispronouncing your name. But this time, they give you something you haven't had in months, a warm room with a door that locks from the inside. The Danish bishop welcomes you personally. He offers you a bowl of stew that actually tastes like meat and bread that's still soft inside. You wolf it down like a beast. Iceland will be notified, he says between spoonfuls. It may take some time. You blink. How much time? He shrugs. Well, weeks. Possibly months. Travel by sea is unreliable this time of year. Of course it is. Because when is it not? You help out around the bishop's quarters while you wait, carrying firewood, sorting old books, and translating letters from Latin when your hands aren't too sore. One day, while you're reorganizing some scrolls, you find a record, scribbled hastily, probably by someone who didn't think it mattered. 2 children, Icelandic, sold into an Andalusian household in Algiers. You sit down, the parchment shaking in your fingers. There's a name this time. Yusuf ibn Sadi, a merchant known for his exotic fabrics and his reputation for treating his household more as family than servants. It doesn't confirm anything, but it's the closest thing to solid proof you've seen. You hold onto the name like it's a lifeline. Yusuf ibn Sadi. Yusuf. Over and over like a chant. Like magic. Like maybe if you whisper it enough, your children will hear you from across the sea. Historians still argue whether Yusuf ibn Sadi was real or a blend of many figures, a composite built out of traveler tales and merchant ledgers. But you don't care. Real or myth. He now anchors your hope. A courier arrives from Iceland 2 months later. He carries a letter from the bishop in Skalholt. You recognize the handwriting. You open it carefully, hands trembling. Your wife is alive.
She thought you were dead.
Everyone did. But she prayed anyway, lit candles, told your children's names to the wind, just in case the sea remembered them. She's waiting for you. Come home. The letter ends. The land needs you. I need you. You close your eyes and let the tears come. A week later, you're on another boat. This one's smaller, and the captain is younger than your boots. But he knows the route, and he doesn't ask questions when you stare at the water for hours. The cold hits hard the moment you're in northern waters again. Your skin cracks. Your breath fogs. But your chest feels warm. Maybe it's the stew. Maybe it's the hope. Maybe it's your ancestors saying, "Took you long enough." When Iceland's coast finally comes into view, you don't cheer. You don't cry. You just breathe, like you've been holding your breath since the moment your children were taken. The docks are quieter than you remember. Fewer sails. More gulls. But it's home. You walk the path to your village slowly. Every tree looks familiar. Every turn feels like a memory you can almost touch. Your wife sees you first. She drops the bucket she was carrying. Then she runs. You catch her mid-stride. She smells like peat smoke and cold wind, and every comfort you forgot you needed. She holds you like you're a ghost, and she's trying to anchor you to the earth. You don't say anything for a long time. Words would only get in the way. That night, over broth and bread, she tells you what you missed. The town rebuilt mostly. The bishop helped. Some pirates were captured, some weren't. People grieved. Some left. Some stayed, and turned their grief into gardens. You tell her about Yusuf ibn Sadi. She listens carefully, nodding. If he has them, she says, he won't hurt them. You nod. But the question still hangs between you. How do we reach them? You write a letter to the Danish bishop, asking for help contacting traders or scholars who've been to Algiers. It's a long shot, but it's the only shot you have. Weeks pass, then months. You return to your chores, fixing nets, mending roofs, teaching your youngest how to gut fish without losing a finger. But your heart is split now. Half in Iceland, half wherever your children might be. One morning, a ship arrives bearing silks from Andalusia and almonds packed in beeswax. The merchant asks for you by name. "I have news," he says, handing you a parcel. Inside is a sealed letter, written in beautiful calligraphy. Arabic script, but with a few Latin phrases sprinkled in like breadcrumbs leading you home. It begins, "To the father of Anna and John." To the father of Anna and John. You read the words again, just to be sure your eyes aren't tricking you. The handwriting is elegant, practiced, someone educated, likely a person of means. Your breath catches, caught somewhere between disbelief and cautious, aching hope. They're alive. Not just alive, but writing. Writing to you. The letter continues with delicate formalities. Apologies for the delay, pleasantries about the weather in Algiers, and then, the part you care about. Your daughter and son, Anna and John, have become part of our household. They are healthy. They are learning the Arabic language and have been baptized into the Islamic faith under new names, Anisa and Yunus. They are cherished among us and have found favor with my wife and my scholars. You read that line again, more slowly this time. They are cherished. You want to feel relief, but it tangles with something else, grief, maybe. Grief for the lives they must now live, the memories they might forget, the parts of their identity that have slipped from their grasp while you held so tightly to yours. The letter is signed, not with a flourish, but with a simple closing. Yusuf ibn Sadi, Algiers, year of the Hijra 1060. So he is real. He is real. You sit down slowly, placing the letter in your lap as if it were made of glass. The house is quiet around you. Outside, someone's chopping wood, and a gull screeches like a drunk uncle. But here, in this moment, it's just you, your heartbeat, and a voice from across the sea. Your wife presses a hand to your shoulder. Well, they're alive, you whisper. He wrote to me. She lets out a breath like she's been holding it for years. And maybe she has. You both have. You show her the letter. She reads every word aloud, slowly, then reads it again in silence. A tear slips from her cheek and lands on the page. You don't wipe it away. The next day, you write back. You write slowly, deliberately, careful not to let your trembling fingers ruin the parchment. You thank Yusuf ibn Sadi. You ask after your children's health, their education, their feelings. You include a poem Anna used to recite before bed. You include John's favorite fishing rhyme. You explain the meaning of their Icelandic names, hoping maybe it will light a candle in their memory. Historians still argue whether such letter exchanges truly happened, or whether they're embellished accounts added later by romantic scribes. But this doesn't feel like romance. It feels like stitching together something that almost unraveled forever. Weeks pass. Then a reply. A merchant arrives on a Flemish vessel, carrying spices, dried citrus peel, and a sealed tube. You recognize the handwriting immediately. This time, the letter is longer. Yusuf says your children are growing quickly. Anna, Anisa, loves music. John, Yunus, has an affinity for maps. They ask about Iceland. The letter says, sometimes, I answer what I can. You close your eyes. Just sometimes. They remember sometimes. A quirky detail emerges. Yunus apparently told his teachers that his real name meant Big Viking who eats all the fish. You laugh so hard you nearly choke on your tea. It's such a John thing to say. Yusuf ends the letter with an invitation. If you wish to see them, I will do my best to arrange your passage. But I must caution, they are not who they were. They are also who they have become. That line lingers with you for days. You discuss it with your wife. You think about it while fishing, while patching your boots, while staring at the sky like it might contain a map. Finally, you make your decision. You're going. You leave at the start of summer. The bishop helps arrange a series of ships and carriages, trading goodwill and relics like coins to smooth your passage. The journey south is rougher this time, less like an adventure, more like surgery. The roads through Europe are clogged with plague rumors and border skirmishes. You're robbed once, nearly frozen another night, and mistaken for a spy in Cadiz. You don't care, because each day, you're closer. And finally, there it is, Algiers. A blazing white city rising from a sapphire sea, sun-baked and fragrant with spice and seaweed and something vaguely like roasted onions. It doesn't look like home, but it doesn't look like a nightmare either. Just different. At the docks, a man in fine robes holds a sign with your name written in Icelandic runes and shaky Arabic script. He takes you through twisting alleys and wide courtyards, past minarets that chime like bells and fountains that sing in tongues you don't know. Finally, you stop at a grand house. Its doors are carved with stories, hunts, stars, boats, vines, and maybe even a fish with suspiciously Icelandic eyes. He knocks. The door opens. And there they are. Anna is taller than you remember. Her hair is darker now, braided differently, decorated with tiny beads. She wears a deep blue tunic and no shoes. She tilts her head like a curious cat. John Eunice is leaner, his face sharper, his posture confident. His eyes are exactly the same. For a moment, no one says a word. Then Anna steps forward. Are you the fisherman? Your knees nearly give way. I was, you whisper. She squints, smiles softly. We used to fish. In dreams. John steps beside her. You smell like smoke and salt. You laugh, awkward and cracked. You smell like cinnamon and mischief. They don't rush into your arms. They don't cry, but they don't leave either. You sit in the courtyard together, the afternoons stretching long and golden. Yusuf joins you briefly, bowing slightly before retreating with a kind smile. You talk about fishing, songs, lullabies. You tell them stories they almost remember. They tell you stories you'll never forget. The gap is vast, but the bridge begins. They let you stay for a week. Every morning, you wake to the sound of soft bells from the nearby mosque, mingled with the rustle of date palms in the courtyard. You sleep on a woven mat under a painted ceiling, warm breezes drifting in through carved wooden screens. It's not the Icelandic wind you're used to, but it's gentle, forgiving almost. Your children, Anissa and Eunice, as they are called now, show you around the home they've grown into. Anna leads you through a tiled garden filled with orange trees and fragrant herbs. John shows off a handmade compass, its needle trembling like it knows it's part of something bigger. At dinner, you sit on floor cushions and eat with your fingers. You fumble with the flatbread. Your beard drips with honeyed dates. You make jokes about fish and snow and how your back was stronger before they were born. They roll their eyes but laugh. Small laughs, but real ones. They still remember the troll story. Not all of it, just the part where the troll hides under the bridge and demands a poem before letting travelers pass. Anna recites a clumsy Icelandic stanza, inserting a pun about goats and pirates. John nearly snorts his tea. You think your heart might fall out of your chest and dance on the mosaic floor. Still, there are awkward silences. Big ones. There are words they fumble with like father and home. They don't speak Icelandic anymore, not really. You, in turn, keep stumbling through Arabic and Turkish and the occasional French phrase. They teach you the Arabic word for memory, dikra, and the one for hope, rajae. And then Anna asks the question, are you staying? It lands with the weight of an avalanche. You pause, swaying between love and reality. You want to say yes. You want to throw away the idea of home as a place and just call it wherever your children are. But my soul would stay, you say carefully. But my body, my wife, my land. John nods slowly. You miss the snow. You smile. And I miss shouting into the wind just to see if it roars back. That's very Icelandic, Anna murmurs. Still, they seem to understand. Or at least, accept. This is not a fairy tale. You're not here to carry them off into the sunset. They have lives here, less tragic than you imagined, more rooted than you hoped. You learn a strange, wonderful truth during this week. They are not prisoners anymore. They are not even servants. They are students. Protected. Federal taught. Anna studies astronomy and poetry. She reads the stars like a priest reads scripture. John learns navigation, languages, map-making. He wants to build ships, he says, ones that can go both ways. Historians still argue whether captives who became scholars or courtiers in North Africa truly had freedom, or whether their gilded cages just looked prettier from the inside. But when John laughs at one of your dumb fishing jokes and corrects your Arabic grammar in the same breath, you don't see chains. You see growth. You see possibility. Still, not everyone trusts you. At dinner one evening, an elder cousin of Yusuf visits and stares at you like you've brought plague into the house. He calls you barber, the North African slang for barbarian. He asks if your island has any proper roads, or if you still live in huts made of whale bones. You respond, only the fancy huts. John giggles behind his hand. Anna hides a smile. The man remains unimpressed, but he can't argue with your children's affection. And Yusuf, for his part, shows quiet respect. He takes you on a walk one morning, just the two of you, through the marketplace, past vendors selling saffron, fabrics, leather books. Your children are remarkable, he says. They were born that way. I gave them food. You gave them soul. You glance sideways at him. And what now? Yusuf sighs. They may visit you one day, but here they're safe, respected. They are not chattel, they are part of a house that values the mind. You nod. You hate that you can't hate him. But what would you be angry at? The kindness? The education? The fact that he calls the mine as easily as you do? Maybe you both are right. Maybe neither of you is. Maybe that's what hurts the most. A fringe theory suggests that such children sometimes rose high in society, becoming scribes, advisors, even governors. It sounds outlandish until you look at Anna's posture, at John's confidence. If anyone could climb into a world that once stole them, it's these two. Your last night arrives too quickly. Anna braids your beard while humming something you think you taught her once. John helps you pack, slipping a drawing of the two of them into your bag. It's stick figures under a palm tree, one holding a fish, the other wearing a crown made of stars. At dawn, they walk you to the harbor. You kiss their heads. They let you. Then you step aboard the ship, clutching the rail like a lifeline. As the sails fill with wind, you see them standing on the dock, side by side, hands raised. You wave until they disappear into the haze. The journey back is slower. The sea doesn't rush you. The stars don't judge. When you finally reach Iceland, your wife meets you with open arms, her face a map of hope and heartbreak. You hand her the drawing first, then the letters, then the stories. She listens. She weeps. She laughs, too, especially at the big Viking who eats all the fish line. She says that's proof John is still in there somewhere. And maybe Anna, too. Every year after, you send one letter south. Just one. Sometimes you get replies. Sometimes you don't. But you keep writing because memory needs something to hold on to. You carve their new names into the wood of your home, next to their old ones. 2 names. For stories. And so much love in between. The years don't gallop, they glide. You return to your rhythms, mending nets, telling stories, nodding along at town meetings where people pretend nothing changed. But inside, something did. You are still a fisherman, still a husband, but now you are also something else entirely. You are a father whose children live in 2 different worlds at once. Every now and then, someone in the village asks about them. Usually it's phrased gently. Any word from the south? Or less gently. You ever going to bring him back? The older ones just stare, pretending they don't remember the night half the town vanished. They remember. You remembered too. Even on quiet days when the sea is calm and the clouds are soft like sheep, a sudden gust of wind can still sound like that first pirate cannon. Jarring, close, brutal. But slowly, life coats the sharp edges in frost. You and your wife build something new between the wreckage and the routine. She takes to teaching younger girls how to weave and stitch again, says it gives her hands something to do while her heart works itself out. One of the boys in the village, now grown, marries a girl from the inland valleys. They name their daughter Anna. You cry at the christening and claim it's the onion soup. You begin to teach local kids how to navigate by stars. You almost forget how you learned all this until you catch yourself reciting an Arabic constellation name, just under your breath. You cough, correct it to the Norse name, and move on. But you remember. You always remember. Then, one spring morning, just as the ice is giving way and the sheep begin to fatten, a letter arrives. No envelope. No wax seal. Just folded parchment, sea-stained and smelling faintly of saffron. The handwriting is careful, elegant, unmistakably hers. Father, it begins. This time, we're coming to you. You drop the letter, then pick it up again. Reread it 20 times. The words shimmer like aurora across the paper. She's coming. They're coming. Home, whatever that means now. You prepare the house. You clean everything. Windows, chairs, the good bowls. You even scrub the wooden doorframe where their childhood height marks remain, though time and salt air have faded them. Your wife bakes. She won't admit it, But she's been waiting for this longer than you. The boat appears on a morning heavy with mist. The villagers line the dock, pretending they're there for the usual fish delivery.
But no fish come off that ship.
Just two adults, dressed in flowing linen and wool cloaks, with eyes full of both storm and sun. John's beard is neat, like yours was once. Anna wears her hair in a braid, so long it swings like a pendulum behind her. They bow first to the village, to the land, and then they run. And you, ancient knees be damned, run too. The reunion is not elegant. You collide like waves and rocks. You laugh, you cry, you mutter something about their awful timing, and Anna says, "We missed you too, old man." It's not perfect. They speak with a strange accent now. Their stories come with references no one in Iceland understands. When Anna says, "We crossed the Atlas Mountains by moonlight," someone in the crowd asks if that's near Denmark. But no one laughs at them.
Not openly.
That night, the village throws a feast. Cod and bread, honey and lamb. A sheep gets sacrificed, and the children, real, local children, stare wide-eyed at the newcomers who look like them but smell of incense and ink. John tells tales of navigation. Anna recites poetry in 3 languages. You join in only once, raising a cup and saying, "These are my children, and the sea gave them back." They stay a month. It feels like a dream, one you don't dare wake from. They sleep in their old beds, now too small for their grown bodies. They walk the cliffs, remembering where they used to throw pebbles into the surf. Anna finds her old rag doll buried in a chest. John tries to milk a sheep and gets kicked in the thigh. You all laugh until your ribs ache. But even dreams must end. They don't belong here anymore, not really. Their world is wide now, uncontainable. They have students of their own, a workshop, a library, even a sponsor from Tunis who funds their expeditions. You're not sure what that means, but it sounds impressive. One night, as the aurora flickers over the sky, Anna takes your hand and whispers, "We want to take you with us, just for a while." You blink. Where? Everywhere. You imagine yourself climbing desert hills, seeing markets larger than your village, eating things that still twitch on the plate. You laugh. You'd have to carry me. We would. Historians still argue whether returning captives ever fully reintegrated into their old communities. Some say yes. Others say they remain strangers, ghosts in their own homes. But you've stopped caring what scholars debate. Your truth is more human than academic. You are not whole without them. And so, at the age most people retire to tend sheep and complain about knees, you pack a bag. Not much, just a carved compass, a weathered coat, and a lock of your wife's hair tied in linen. She stays. She says her story is here. But she kisses you like it's your first day as a husband, and tells you to bring her sand from every place you visit. Even if it's just dust, she whispers. Even if it's ash. You promise. The boat leaves on a soft morning. The kind where clouds blur into ocean and gulls cry like ghosts. Your children stand beside you, one on each side. And as the island fades into the mist, you don't feel like you're leaving home. You feel like you're finding it. The sea becomes your new horizon. You learn quickly that the ocean is both friend and foe. Sometimes a glassy mirror reflecting endless skies. Sometimes a roaring beast that makes even the bravest want to curl into a ball and wish for dry land. Your children teach you the art of navigation anew, this time under star charts you barely understand, with names like Alcade and Betelgeuse floating in your mind like strange incantations. You feel like an apprentice again, fumbling with instruments and learning the language of the waves. Your breath catches when you first spot the minaret of a distant city glimmering in the sunset. So different from the churches back home, but equally majestic. You realize your life is becoming a tapestry woven from 2 worlds, and sometimes the threads get tangled. Days blur together in a salty haze, punctuated by the rhythmic creak of wooden beams and the snap of sails. You sleep under the stars, wrapped in blankets that smell of pine and seaweed. John teaches you how to fish with nets that look like spiderwebs, stronger, finer, more patient. Anna sketches constellations by candlelight, her eyes glowing with dreams you can barely catch. One evening, as you sit on the deck, you spot a pod of dolphins racing alongside the ship, their sleek bodies cutting through the water with effortless grace. You remember the sagas of sea monsters and trolls, but now see only life. Vibrant, wild, free. You try to tell your children about the Icelandic legends, but the words come out tangled. Anna laughs, teasing you about your sea monster paranoia, while John rolls his eyes and says, "Dad, those stories were probably just fishermen needing a good excuse for bad weather." Still, the stories comfort you. You clutch the memory of that old troll under the bridge, his riddles still unsolved. The journey is not without danger. You face storms that whip the waves into towering walls, threatening to swallow the ship whole. You battle seasickness and exhaustion, and once you almost fall overboard while trying to secure a loose sail. But the hardest part is the waiting, the endless stretches of time when the horizon offers no promises, only the slow passage of clouds and the steady beat of your own heart. Historians still argue whether the resilience of these captives was due to fate, faith, or sheer stubbornness. You know it was a bit of all three. At one port, you barter for spices that make your tongue tingle and fabrics so soft you wonder if they come from clouds. You meet traders who speak in many tongues, their eyes sharp and curious. A merchant jokes that Iceland must be a land of ice and fire, cold enough to freeze the soul but fiery enough to melt the heart. You laugh and nod, wondering if that's true for you now too. You carry a small wooden charm carved by your wife, a talisman for safe travels. You finger it in the dark, whispering a prayer you learned as a boy. As the ship sails toward new lands, you feel something strange. Hope. Not the reckless hope of a man who ignores the odds, but a quiet, steady flame that burns even in the darkest nights. Because no matter where you go, no matter how far the pirates took your children or how strange the world seems, this journey is yours. And maybe, just maybe, survival isn't about coming home unchanged. It's about coming home changed and still standing. Land rises from the mist like a secret finally revealed. You step off the ship onto cobblestones that don't crunch with ice or moss but echo with the chatter of markets and horses. The air smells different here, warmer, spiced, alive with languages that swirl around you like a carnival. Your children lead the way, heads held high, moving through crowds as if they belong. You feel like a stranger, though this is your family's new home. You try to hide the awkwardness, the way your clothes smell of sea, and your gait still drags with the rhythm of waves. Anna points out the small things: a fountain shaped like a lion, a street vendor selling honey cakes, the call to prayer echoing from a tall tower. It's beautiful and bewildering all at once. You learn quickly that in this bustling city, everyone has a story of being a stranger. People smile at you with eyes that know what it means to be lost, to be found, to be caught between worlds. One evening, as the sun dips below orange rooftops, John takes you to a workshop filled with strange tools and scrolls. He shows you how to carve letters in a script that loops and curls like waves themselves. "You'll never get used to this," he jokes, but you surprise yourself by learning to write a few words. You think of the simple runes back home, carved into wood and stone, primitive but honest. Here, language feels like an art, and you're fumbling with the brush. Your wife's small charm grows heavier in your pocket, a quiet reminder of where you came from. At the market, you barter for foods you can barely name: dates, olives, figs, and taste sweetness that feels like sunshine trapped in fruit. The city hums with life and contradictions, wealth and poverty side by side, merchants in fine silk haggling over spices, while children play in alleyways with nothing but hope. One night, you sit under a balcony dripping with vines and listen to music that sounds like laughter caught in wind. You wonder if your children miss the stark, cold beauty of Iceland. John admits he does sometimes, the quiet, the simplicity, but Anna says she's found new stories here, stories that will carry her through. Historians still argue whether captives like your children ever fully abandoned their roots or carried them quietly, tucked away like precious gems. You see it in their eyes, the flicker of firelight when they remember home, even as they build new lives. You realize that maybe the question isn't about forgetting, but about carrying two homes inside you, one heart stretched between worlds. Your footsteps grow lighter, your breath steadies. This place, this strange and wonderful city, is beginning to feel like something close to belonging. And perhaps, after all the storms and loss, that is the greatest treasure of all. Time slips past like sand through your fingers, finer and finer, but your grip loosens with each grain. You begin to see the rhythms of this new life, markets opening before dawn, the call to prayer punctuating noon, stories shared over spiced tea as the sun dips low. The seasons don't change as sharply here. Instead, the heat lingers like a soft blanket, thick with jasmine and smoke. Your children are changing too. John's laugh is deeper, his eyes sharper. Anna's words weave like poetry, painting pictures you sometimes don't understand but cherish anyway. They move through the city like birds born to the skies, while you still stumble over cobblestones like a newborn foal. You spend mornings wandering the narrow streets, discovering hidden courtyards and fountains carved with intricate patterns. You smell fresh bread baking and spices, sizzling in earthen pots. You touch fabrics softer than anything back home, silks that glide between your fingers like liquid light. There's a small library near the harbor, filled with scrolls and books bound in leather. You visit often, tracing your fingers over strange symbols, trying to learn the stories written in these foreign tongues. One afternoon, you meet a scholar, an old man with eyes like molten gold and a smile full of secrets. He tells you tales of the sea, of distant lands, of people who crossed oceans long before you ever set sail. His stories make you feel both small and infinite. He shares a curious fact. Pirates sometimes took captives not just for slavery, but for ransom or even as political pawns. This sparks a debate among the scholars, some saying it was brutal exploitation, others suggesting captives gained unexpected freedoms. You find yourself caught between these worlds, your own history tangled in these complexities. Your wife's charm grows worn in your pocket. You finger it whenever doubt creeps in, the feeling that you might never fully belong here or anywhere. One evening, as the sun sets, painting the sky with fiery reds and gentle pinks, you sit with your children on a rooftop terrace. They speak of adventures yet to come, places they dream of seeing, songs they want to sing. You realize that though the past aches like a shadow, the future stretches wide, an open sea waiting for new stories. You breathe deeply, the scent of jasmine and salt air mingling in your lungs. And for the first time in a long while, you feel at peace. The city at night reveals its hidden heartbeat. You find yourself wandering the narrow, winding streets under a tapestry of stars, so bright they almost seem close enough to touch. Lanterns flicker softly, casting warm pools of light that dance on cobblestones slick with the evening's cool dew. The air smells of baked bread cooling, roasted nuts, and the faint, spicy smoke of distant fires. You follow the sounds of laughter and music spilling from a small tavern tucked behind a colorful market square. Inside, the air hums with chatter in dozens of languages, a mix of rough voices and soft melodies. Your children smile as they greet old friends and share tales that blend Icelandic grit with the wild, new magic of this land. You notice how your own tongue feels awkward, twisted around words that don't come naturally, but you're learning slowly. The scholar you met before once told you that language is a living thing, shifting like the tides, and you're beginning to understand that this strange tongue is becoming part of your own story. Tonight, the tavern's hearth glows bright, and a bard strums a lute, weaving a song that speaks of sea voyages, of loss and hope, of men and women torn from home, but finding strength in each other. You listen closely, the music threading through your bones, reminding you of the trolls beneath Icelandic bridges and the frozen fjords you left behind. Somewhere in the corner, an old man grins and shares a curious fact. Pirates of the time often had secret codes, marks on trees, rocks, or ships that guided each other to safe harbors or hidden treasures. You wonder if your captors ever used such symbols, hidden in plain sight. Historians still argue whether these marks were true signals or just legends spun to add mystery and thrill to pirate tales. You decide some mysteries are better left unsolved, like the riddle of the troll you never answered. Later, as you step out into the cool night, you catch the scent of salt and jasmine mingling in the air, a reminder of the sea that brought you here and the strange new world you're learning to call home. You pull your cloak tighter and look up at the stars, feeling small but part of something vast and enduring. The night whispers stories you will carry forever. Morning comes slow and golden, like a soft promise. You awake to the gentle clatter of the market outside, a symphony of voices hawking fresh bread, fragrant herbs, and colorful cloth. The sun filters through wooden shutters, painting stripes across your worn blanket. Your children are already up, their faces bright with plans for the day. John eager to explore the shipyards, Anna hoping to visit the Grand Library again. You watch them with a quiet pride, wondering how much of Iceland's wild spirit remains in their laughter and steps. You step outside, feeling the warmth of the sun on your face, the scent of roasting coffee beans and sweet figs filling the narrow street. The city feels alive in a way that's both exhilarating and exhausting, a place that demands attention and gives little rest. You wander toward the harbor, where ships creak and creak again, ropes taut against wooden masts. Fishermen haul in nets heavy with glistening fish, while merchants argue over prices, with voices sharp and eager. A curious fact strikes you. Some pirates, rather than brutal slavers, were skilled traders and negotiators who integrated into local economies, blurring lines between enemy and ally. This dual role fascinates you, making you question everything you thought you knew about your captors. Historians still argue whether these complex relationships made pirates more feared or grudgingly respected. You realize that history is often as tangled as the ropes on these ships, full of shadows and contradictions. You find a quiet spot by the water's edge and watch gulls whirl overhead, their cries sharp and wild. The water laps gently against the stones, steady and unchanging. In this moment, you feel the weight of all you've lost and all you've gained, the ice and fire of Iceland, the salt and spice of this foreign land, the endless ocean between. You clutch the wooden charm in your hand, now smooth and warm, a symbol not just of home, but of survival and transformation. As the sun climbs higher, you close your eyes and breathe deeply, letting the city's pulse sync with your own. You are no longer just a man taken by pirates. You are a man remade by the tides. The days blend into weeks, and the weeks into months, time folding and unfolding like the sails of the ships that brought you here. You find yourself waking with a quieter heart, one less gripped by panic, and more open to the strange rhythms of this place. Your children have grown beyond your wildest imaginings, not just surviving, but thriving. John has begun to learn the craft of shipbuilding, his hands steady as he shapes wood, echoing the skills your ancestors once prized. Anna's voice rings clear in the marketplace as she sells woven cloth, her eyes shining with a mix of determination and newfound joy. Sometimes, in the quiet moments, you catch yourself smiling at the strange ways your family has adapted. The foreign spices have replaced the simple salt and dried fish of Iceland, yet your dinners are full of laughter and stories. You find comfort in these small triumphs, reminders that life can grow anew, even from the most violent uprooting. One evening, as the city's lamps flicker to life, you join your family on a rooftop terrace overlooking the harbor. The scent of jasmine mingles with the salt air, and distant music drifts on the breeze, soft and inviting. You think back to the first day you were taken, how the world turned upside down, how fear and hopelessness wrapped around you like chains. Now, those chains feel lighter, replaced by threads of resilience and connection. You remember the odd fact you heard from the old scholar, that some captives eventually rose to positions of power within the very societies that enslaved them. It's a thought both inspiring and bittersweet. Historians still argue whether such stories are exceptions or hidden norms, tales lost or deliberately forgotten. You like to think your family is part of that quiet legacy, carrying seeds of strength planted in the harshest soil. As you watch the sun set, painting the sky in hues of amber and lavender, a peaceful hush settles over the city. Your children's laughter rises, blending with the distant cries of seabirds and the soft murmur of waves. You close your eyes, feeling the weight of all that's been lost, but also the fierce hope that endures. Here, on this rooftop between sea and sky, you find a fragile kind of peace. The world is vast and uncertain, but you have made your mark upon it, etched not in stone, but in the hearts of those you love. And as night falls gently around you, you know this story is far from over. It lives on in every breath, every step, every whispered prayer carried on the wind. Now, as the night deepens and your eyes grow heavy, let's slow the pace and soften the edges of this story. Imagine the gentle rocking of a small boat beneath a star-studded sky, the quiet splash of water against its sides, a lullaby whispered by the sea itself. Breathe in the calm, the steady rhythm of waves, and let your mind drift with them. The hardships and heartbreaks you've felt, those cold winds and harsh hands, begin to fade like distant echoes, replaced by warmth and the quiet glow of hope. You are safe here, wrapped in the comfort of stories passed down through generations, stories that remind us of our strength even when the world seems against us. Your heart, once burdened by loss, now carries the light of new beginnings. Rest easy knowing that though history is often wild and unpredictable, it's also full of moments like this, moments of resilience, connection, and love that outlast the darkest nights. So, dim your lights a little more, let that soft fan hum wrap around you like a blanket, and drift into dreams where you are free, where the sea sings gentle songs, and where you are always home. Thank you for sharing this journey tonight. Until next time, sleep well and sweet dreams.